never give up. I never give up. I never give up.
Hi guys, welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan Neff. Today I've got Suzy Hardy with me and I'm looking forward to our conversation because Suzy, like me, really, we are children of alcoholics. We have both had to realize that there is actually quite a lot to be said about the intergenerational influences and the trauma that happened to the generation before us and maybe generations, and the impact that it subsequently has on us, on our belief systems and our core beliefs, and maybe also in the way we conduct ourselves. And so we are not talking pure genetics here, but we are talking actually about a very complex web and the influences that are hitting us nowadays. So, Suzy, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much, Stephan. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. You are a woman who is nowadays out there to help others to live their life to the fullest. And typically we find ourselves in such roles only because we have been in a bit of a darkness. And for some of us more than others, and some of us longer than others. My goodness.
Yeah.
How did your story start?
Oh, okay. Let's see. Well, I have always been fascinated with natural healing from my mother, actually, from childhood. My mother was an immigrant from Slovakia. She came over to the United States right after World War II. You know, she had a very rough upbringing, but during that upbringing, she was very aware of nutrition. So I was raised with, much like Europeans are, you know, good food, quality food, fresh juices. We ate for not just taste, but also nutrition and feeling well. Also from my mother, I got a lot of anxiety and depression, or rather the propensity for it. It's throughout my family. I can't just put it on her, but I had my first panic attack at age 8. And in retrospect, it's terrifying. I didn't know it was happening. I was always a very sensitive child, but that was something that I've had to deal with, depression and anxiety, throughout my life. Western medicine really didn't help me. I've tried all sorts of healing techniques, also because I was just a seeker. I wanted to know why this was happening. And I had an experience, also a back injury when I was a teenager, that Western doctors could not help me with. It was just a soft tissue injury, but I healed it with acupuncture and massage. And that opened my eyes to, oh, okay, doctors don't know everything. Along the mental health journey.
Oh, yes, we do. I know everything. Come on.
I forgot.
I'm so humble. Yeah, that's right.
You know everything.
No, but you're so right. You're so right. It is. We doctors can be sometimes a bit, in our ivory towers there. And I'm sorry to hear that you had such an experience to start off with there.
Well, but, you know a lot, and things are changing, and medicine is changing. Like when I was young, when I was a teenager, I'm in my mid 40s now. I had to wait it took 6 months for me to go to the doctor who wanted to give me pain meds, the chiropractor to crack my back. I just needed massage and I needed soft tissue manipulation. I had sciatica. The tension of it was spreading up and down my body. And I went from being an athlete to being like an old lady. I couldn't even get up out of a chair. I'd literally have to push myself up. I was 16. It took me that much pain to go, I need to find something else because no one's going to fix this but me, or I'm going to have to find it. And I did. And now things are changing. Now Western medicine embraces doctors are becoming acupuncturists, and mind-body connection and energy medicine is all happening. But back then it didn't. And I was kind of left with no other choice but to find a way to help myself. So that carried over into mental health too. I've done all sorts of, and I became, along that path, I became fascinated with it. I became a massage therapist and an energy healer as well, because it was a passion of mine, and I wanted to help others heal. So I've always been, quote unquote, a healer, or fascinated with healing, and it carries over into mental health.
Beautiful. Wow. having said that, I mean, most teenagers, whilst they might dabble little bit with it and buy some crystals, learn about chakras, and then a year later, see, a year later, their other things have become important. And typically, you don't make much money, at least not as a teenager, as a healer. So, what did you do? So, you became a massage therapist.
Well, my true passion was acting and performance.
Oh.
And I was a psychology major in college. I was a drama minor. And one of the first times I went into therapy was my senior year of college, where I was like, what do I do with the rest of my life? Like, I was really good at school. I knew how to do school, but I really wanted to act. I loved it so much on the stage and behind a camera, and I followed my heart, but I didn't want to just wait tables and bartend, which is great. And I did that for a long time in Manhattan. I moved to Los Angeles, and long story short, I got fired from a bartending job. And someone I co-worked with was going to massage school. And I thought, I kind of always wanted to do that. I had seen an off-Broadway show with a Q&A with the actors afterwards. And there was this older actress, and she had done energy healing. I don't remember the type, but she said, you always have to have different interests. If you're going to be an artist, you have to have other things. You never know, especially with performance art, you never know which way it's going to go. Do other things. And so I got fired from that job. I was with someone who was doing it. I said, I'm going to check out your school. And it was wonderful. It was one of the best things I ever did. I learned a lot. The form that we did was based on Tai Chi. So I got to learn Tai Chi. And it was very grounded in that most people just want their muscles rubbed, which I love. I've gotten hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of body work, all sorts. But they also gave you the opportunity to learn energy healing. So that was my side job as I was pursuing acting and voiceover in Los Angeles. I had my own private practice. It was great. And I've always been an entrepreneur, so I wanted to work for myself.
Excellent. So you always were a woman who actually took action and was forging ahead, cutting herself away through the jungle, and I guess taking opportunities as they arose. Oh, it's just cool. Which is cool. Yeah. So, I mean, having said that, I mean, that was anxiety and that was this propensity, but you were also alluding to your mum actually having come from a very dark background. May I ask, was she Jewish, or was that part of you, or?
No, we were Catholic. So I loved how you mentioned like intergenerational trauma and story. And so my family's Catholic. Both of my parents came to the United States when they were children, both Catholic and from Slovakia. Yeah. My mom was born in a refugee camp in Austria because her side, my dad's side was potato farmers, and they just came, they got out when the Russians came in. They were like, we got to get out of here. This is not going to be good. Exactly. Saw the writing on the wall. My mom's family was very wealthy and very democratic and very involved in the government in Slovakia. And when the Russians came in, they took all of their land, they took their money, they took their possessions. And same thing, my grandparents were, my grandmother, my mom's mom, grew up a spoiled brat. She grew up with very wealthy for where she was. And they fled, they went to Austria, they waited for a visa. They had the opportunity or the United States, they chose the United States. They settled in New York, and they were poor. They were poor immigrants. My mom didn't speak it. No one spoke English. She told this cute story when she went to kindergarten. She first tried Slovak, but no one understood what she was saying. So then she tried German because she knew German too. Still no one knew what she was saying. She gave up and she had to learn English. But they were poor and they struggled. My grandparents were abusive, as many were back then. This was in the 50s. I think being poor immigrants also contributed to the household stress. And then on top of that, my grandmother was not well mentally. She was never properly diagnosed. I think she definitely had borderline personality disorder, possibly some schizophrenia. Yeah. And she kind of ruled with an iron fist. And she was physically and emotionally abusive to my mom and my mom's twin sister, my aunt, and my uncle. And my uncle eventually, when I was graduating high school, he became an alcoholic. So my grandparents were not alcoholics. They did not abuse substances, but they were mentally unwell. My uncle became an alcoholic and died from it. And then years later, when I was about 22, graduating college, it became apparent that my mom was self-medicating with alcohol, like gone from, it was so rapid and so destructive so quickly. I mean, my mom she gave me and my brother the childhood that she had always wanted. She was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was the breadwinner. You know, we had a comfortable middle-class lifestyle in New York. She baked cookies. She cooked, you know, the family meals. She loved being a homemaker. She sewed us clothes. She was the mom that would go to school and the games and the dance recitals. And we had it pretty good compared to my other friends who had divorce and other things going on. When I graduated college, that all changed. And it took 14 years, 13 or 14 years of that getting progressively worse. She was in and out of rehabs. She had some sort of mental snap, some mental break. She had never gone to therapy to try to deal with her childhood trauma. But she was always reading self-help books. That probably contributed to my passion about the mind and psychology and mind-body connection. They were always around the house, and I was always reading them with her. But she never really delved into it and like gave herself the treatment that she needed, the care that she needed, because she had trauma. The stories that she told me about the abuse that my grandmother inflicted on her were just horrific. She was kicked out of the house when she was 16, her and my aunt, because my grandmother just kind of went and said, "Get out." And this was, you know, in the 60s, in the 1960s in New York City, or sorry, in Queens, New York. So she had a lot that she never dealt with. And there was a series of things that happened. She was in a car accident. She had empty nest. My brother went off to college. I was already out of the house.
Exactly.
She had no sense of purpose. She had never gone back to work. She had a few things. Her brother passed away. There were a few things that happened that contributed to all of this happening. And she was off and running with binge drinking, numbing out, and then having so much shame about that. And I knew she had depression and anxiety and questioning her marriage and her life. And she was, I mean, meant like probably, you know, midlife crisis for sure. And it was tragic because we really did try to help her, but she eventually passed from it when I was 36. So, 35. So 11 years ago. I myself, when I realized how bad it was, and we had a small family, it wasn't very big, so we didn't have a lot of support. I was just becoming an adult and wanted to pursue this crazy dream of acting and knew that it was going to be challenging. And I moved to Los Angeles. And I think there was also a part of me that moved to get away from that because my father, bless him, was codependent. Many times I said, "Dad, we need to do an intervention. This can't go on." And he told her, he said, "She doesn't want an intervention." I thought, well, duh. Who the hell wants an intervention?
Okay.
Yeah. So you can see,
I really want a root canal. Yes, please. Yeah, exactly.
No anesthetic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
he didn't know. He was abused too, but he didn't develop an addiction. But he had an abusive childhood too. He was also an immigrant. They were poor when they left. His parents created a nice life for themselves, but they were very cold and mean. And so my parents didn't have it easy. They wanted to give their children what they didn't have. And I think they did, but things backfired when we grew up and left the house. And my parents had never dealt with their own childhood traumas, their own story. And then I've tried to forgive at least my mom's mom of the abuse that she inflicted, because it was harsh. Because she didn't have it easy. She went through, fleeing country and leaving all of her family behind, and God knows what else.
Yeah.
But I've had to deal with that in my own therapy to figure out. I had it fairly good compared to, like I said, my friends that I grew up with. And then I tried in my young adulthood, was having all of, again, more anxiety, panic attacks, depression, being really hard on myself. I did go to Al-Anon, but I didn't find it really suited me. It made me more depressed.
Interesting.
And it wasn't until I want to say about a year ago, where my cousin, my mom's twin son, he told me about ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics, also a 12-step program, an offshoot of Alateen. I believe in the 70s when the teens grew up that were in Alateen, they said, well, we're not teenagers anymore. We can't stay in this program, but we're still messed up and we still need support.
Oh, nice one. Nice one. Okay.
And so ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics, has just been wonderful. It explains a lot. You know, they talk about the laundry list of traits that if you have many of these traits, you probably belong here. And I probably have like 80% of them, where you're trying to people please, you're trying to control, you put yourself last. So many things that I thought were just my problems for whatever reason. It turns out, no, it's from the dysfunction I was raised in, that I was trying to parent my parents. I was trying to take care of them.
No. This is such a common scenario. If you think that the chemical addiction is 1 in 3, maybe 1 in 4, although that's probably already too low. If you then say, well, you know, this is it affects so many children out there. It affects so many adults. It's sort of an intergenerational trauma that is being handed down and is often multiplied by the new behaviors of addiction that are then sprinkled on top of the existing trauma that is already there. Oh my goodness.
I have to point out to the audience too that they have amended. It's not just adult children of alcoholics or people with addictions. It's also of dysfunction. And when you broaden that, because at first, when I heard of adult children of alcoholics, ACA, I thought, well, I wasn't a child when she had her addiction, so this can't apply to me. But the dysfunction was there. The seeds were there.
Yeah.
And if you broaden that, I sometimes think, well, who doesn't belong in this? And most people have dysfunctional upbringings.
Exactly.
But, you know, if you read their laundry list and it suits you, then this program could help you.
Which is really, really good. You are describing it so well there, and many of us will probably find ourselves acknowledging that. But is there not a place to actually say, well, okay, that is the past. It has happened. I now try to live my life to the fullest. So is that not just putting a label on?
I think if you are happy and at peace and you don't have anxiety or depression and you feel life is in the flow, then you know you've survived, or you had the tools, or maybe it wasn't as bad to affect you, then you know you don't need the label. But if you're struggling like I did with your own mental health and trying all of the things that you know you should and they're not working, then there's probably some deeper seated stuff there. And the more meetings I attend, the more I realize, wow, this is pretty pervasive. It's everywhere.
It's beautiful.
And it's not to blame, and that's not to blame you know, I know my parents did the best they could with the tools that they were given. They were abused. I know my grandparents did the best they could with fleeing the ends of World War II and a, you know, communist invasion and so on and so forth. Like you could go back, like people do the best they can.
That's right.
You know, and you have to forgive them, but then you're stuck with the baggage. I feel like,
love it.
Right?
Exactly.
I feel like people now, especially since the stigma of mental health is being slowly lifted. Yeah. I think even when I was a child, and then especially for my mother and especially for my grandmother, oh God, she resisted. Like she went kicking and screaming to the psychiatrist, because my mother and my aunt, despite the abuse that she inflicted, they were still in relationship with her. I was baffled. I thought, well, how could they still want to see her? And because it was horrible. I mean, really bad. They still wanted their mother. They still craved that connection, even though she was abusive. Whereas nowadays, if they had gone to therapy, a therapist might say, you might want to consider putting up some boundaries. They didn't even have that terminology back then. Put up some boundaries and keep yourself safe. This is where psychology is just fascinating to me, because we're still learning about it. deep space, deep ocean, and the brain are the last three unknown frontiers. And while we like to, we know more than we did a year ago, or 10 or 50 or 20 years ago,
Yeah.
we're still learning, right, Stephan? We're still learning about the brain and how it connects with the body and our emotions and behavior and all the stuff.
I think the other thing to be said is,
I went on a rant there. But.
No. You're gorgeous there. You nailed it pretty much. But it's, as with so many things, these breakthroughs that happen, they come at the right time. And sometimes we put very strong walls up in order not to have to address that trauma from the past. And that might be abandonment trauma. It might not be that you've been beaten black or blue, but it might just be that your needs were not met at a young age. And in turn, you build up these strong walls, you paraphrase, you create abstract kind of things that help you in your head to understand. And with that, often there comes a lot of denial and a lot of, no, that was then, I don't want to deal with it now. So, and this denial, I think that is sometimes the biggest problem that you're facing. And I think you nailed it there. You said, no, I can't be involved with ACA. I didn't have a bad childhood. So here you go. Now that you're exploring those connections, how has that impacted on your own mental health?
Well, one thing I wanted to point out was, or just bring up, that something you said that made me think, is that how we are raised and how we are loved and how our needs are taken care of or not informs and affects our adult relationships, particularly our romantic relationships and our relationships with our own children. So if you don't take the time to unpack that, if you are feeling like you are struggling in life, you're going to, even though, like you said, you put up the blinders and have the denial, I'm fine, it's going to affect your relationships.
Yep.
Whether you like it or not. That's how the subconscious works. That's how our beautiful minds work. Our bodies are evolved to protect us, to keep us alive. And this is where this informs the work I do with anxiety with my clients, in that we were evolved to, our brains evolved to take care of threats that really don't exist anymore. A lot of us don't have to deal with predators anymore. We deal with bills and romance and relationships. But the trauma, the way our brains work, this is a threat. This thing that happened to me in childhood is a threat, or I was abandoned as a child. This is a threat. And I'm going to protect myself so that doesn't happen again. But then it cuts you off from experiences in life. Yeah. It prevents you from being present or seeking opportunity or taking risks or being in healthy relationships. I'm fascinated by the fact that we're attracted to romantic partners that will bring out our childhood traumas. It seems very cruel, like a cruel joke.
No, you're right. That's such a repeating story. We see it again and again and again. There's this father was a narcissist, and then you're seeking out narcissists as partners. 5 in a row, and you think, what? How? Why? Because why? Because you're used to that. You have somehow linked love to that particular behavior. So whilst it is actually not the greatest behavior, you at least know it. And instinctively, you're going for something rather than the unknown. And I think that is
even if it's painful. Yeah.
Correct. And that's so hard. At the same token, I loved it what you said, that the understanding of the challenges that your parents and grandparents faced, versus now you going out there and living your life by your own definition. And typically you do exactly the opposite how you were brought up with your children down the line, or with your relationships. Did you experience that as well? How did you rebel?
I remember hearing, like, you either do the exact same or you do the exact opposite. How did I rebel? I think I rebelled in my choice of profession. I didn't want to. I saw my parents. My father was a successful attorney. My mom was a homemaker. I always knew I wanted that, but I wasn't really sure. I really wanted to be an actress. I wanted to perform. I wanted to do what made my heart sing. but it was a very challenging industry, especially as a woman. I shouldn't say that. It's challenging for anybody. Hollywood is not easy, but I loved it. I loved movies. I loved theater. It made me feel very present. It was where I found my joy.
Wow.
And so I guess I did the opposite, because I don't have children. I have fur babies. I have 2 dogs, and a husband. But I didn't, not in order of importance. I have a husband and 2 persons. I don't have human children, is what I'm saying. So I guess I did the opposite, because I didn't want to, right when I was becoming a young adult, or was a young adult, this was a parent of my family dynamic, and it messed me up. It really messed me up. I was clinically depressed because I saw what I felt like was a train wreck slowly happening. It took longer than I thought it would, because my mom was really binge drinking and was acting out, was being abusive to my father, was driving drunk, was doing things that were unfathomable to me. If you knew my mother, she was this gorgeous, bright, funny, creative woman who loved her family, and yet her mental illness, her deep-seated trauma, untreated trauma that she was trying to numb, turned her into someone we didn't know. And I didn't want to pass this on to my children. I felt like I can't have a family and be feeling this way. I need to be able to be okay. And it's, it continues to this day. The work on it in my own heart and my own mind will continue to this day, or continue, I guess, for the rest of my life, because that was trauma for me to watch her do that.
That's true.
So I went the opposite way.
That's true. And that is not unheard of either. You try to, you basically cope with in ways that make sense for you, and there is no right or wrong. It is just whatever works out for you, and we need to accept it. But I love it that you say that this remains a challenge, but it also remains an opportunity. I guess you have got all that insight, you have got all that trauma, you are now paraphrasing things, you're actually finding a meaning there. And I think that is the strength for children of alcoholics, because we have seen the darkness and we have been exposed to behaviors that we did not like, that negatively affected us. But we are now working towards becoming different humans, better humans. And that is maybe work that would have not happened had we not been exposed to the trauma. So this is really post-traumatic growth, if you let it be defined like that. But there's, of course, the temptation to call yourself the victim and stay in that pity party. What would you, do you experience that in ACA as well?
No, no more. Like I said, I was clinically depressed for many, many years because I felt powerless.
Right.
I felt absolutely powerless. I remember crying to my mother while she was drunk on her bed and saying, I need you and I was 24. I need you in my life. Please, we need to get you help. I don't want it. I want to see you at my wedding. She didn't make it to my wedding. And so it was very, very heavy. And I felt like it was, again, the generational heaviness of a lot of family members that was funneling through my mother onto me, onto my brother, my father. Yeah. And I put the blinders on. I thought, well, I'll just take antidepressants and I'll just continue my life. And I'm 3,000 miles away. And it didn't matter because I knew what was really happening. It made me very sad, very depressed.
Yeah.
Would swing back and forth, depression, anxiety, like a pendulum, until I got to the other point where I was like, this is what it is. I am not going to be a victim anymore. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. But I deserve to find joy in my life, as everybody does. And I had to develop ways to deal with that depression and anxiety. I remember some of the greatest advice I got from the psychiatrist, because I had tried different medications, and a boyfriend I was dating at the time, he's like, well, you're not as depressed, but you're also not smiling. You're not happy. And then I saw this psychiatrist and he said, you're moderately depressed. And according to, latest science, 3 to 5 times a week of sweaty exercise is as effective as antidepressants. And I thought, thank you for telling me that. I'm going to get my ass to the gym. So, I think if anyone out there is feeling the pity party or feeling like a victim, not an empowering place to be. You're allowed to feel sad. That's the one thing I take away from all this experience. We are the sky, and our feelings are like clouds that pass. We see this in children. Children are smiling one minute, fall down, skin their knee, crying, then they get back up and run away and are smiling again. Emotions, I would get stuck in my emotions, not the happy ones, the heavy ones. And it's important to be able to manage these and find a way for you to manage your own mind, your own life, your own experiences, and finding your peace and your own joy. So like, you are the sky. If you have rain clouds and thunder clouds and a hurricane, it's just temporary. It'll pass.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I mean, I think that is the beautiful thing to say. Even the darkest hour only has got 60 minutes. And I think that is what was so liberating for me once I figured out that sort of waves of anxiety, well, they last 10 minutes, they last maybe an hour, and that I have got the choice of riding that wave, of experiencing it, of playing around with that wave in the ocean. The wave doesn't care if you like it or not. The wave will still come. So you can either surf it, or you can dive underneath it, or you can let it pummel you and experience the power of the water. Well, it's the same with those emotions. And I think by disengaging yourself a little bit from the emotional impact, and more importantly, not feeling shame or guilt. Oh my God, why do I now have an anxiety attack? I failed because, I could not prevent that, and all these kind of things. My goodness.
I'm glad you brought that up, Stephan, because the shame that I felt around my own anxiety as a child and throughout my life. So from the first panic attack to, the shame around. So I was already feeling bad. I was already feeling anxious, and then I'd feel shame about feeling anxious. So I was feeling badly about feeling badly, and piling on the negative thoughts in my mind, like something's wrong with me and I'm bad and I'm it's crippling. That made it 10 times worse.
Exactly. And we are very good. We're very good in that. We always are. The way we speak to ourselves, you wouldn't speak to your worst enemy like the way you speak to yourself. So
no, I am very harsh on myself. And that I found was also a trait of ACA. And knowing that kind of alleviated, like, oh, that makes sense. Because for me, it was, and I think for a lot of people, it's like, well, if you're harsh on yourself, you're not going to be hurt by someone else's criticism. You've already done it. You've already done your worst. So go ahead. But guess what? That makes life a living hell.
Absolutely. But it's lovely. The way you spell it out like that, you think, what did I just say? That is bullshit. But you need to spell it out. You need to actually work with it. And that is where indeed a coach comes in, or where actually a systematic approach comes in. It is the journaling. I found that amazing at times. When I wrote my steps to Steps to Sobriety, the first version. Sometimes I had a writer's block, and I forced myself to do crazy writing. You just write something. It doesn't matter. And I had at times experiences where my fingers were writing words, and I became the observer. And I thought, what the hell is coming out of there? What am I writing there? And that is when I get goosebumps just thinking of that, because that is when suddenly unresolved trauma or things from your past come out and presenting itself. Had I not given myself that time and the opportunity to let that happen, then I would have never explored that particular memory, that particular reflection. It was beautiful. It was painful. Okay, I'll give you that. But that is where we all have the opportunity to grow, but we need to actually stop in our rat race, and we need to actually press the pause button actually, and just feel for a moment and let a bit of calmness come over you. Now, coming back to you, though, I mean, here you were saying, your psychiatrist was saying, oh, okay, sport is good for you. So now you were running to the gym. These are all actually taking actions, which is good. You could, of course, also say where you're not running away from your problems, where you're not running away and trying to throw yourself into crazy exercise, so that you didn't have to feel, that you didn't have to think.
No, I was still active, and when I say I have tried many, many, many healing techniques and therapies, I am not making it up. So I wasn't just going to the MD psychiatrist for a prescription, give me a pill and make it all better. Because actually, like I said, it didn't work. I gained weight, I lost my sex drive, and I wasn't happy. If there was a pill and it was a happy pill and it was just like, yeah, that didn't happen. I also traveled back home to New York for Christmas and forgot my prescription. And until the doctor could forward a prescription to a local pharmacy, I was going through withdrawal and what felt like many lightning storms in my brain, which really scared me. And I knew that like you have to, if you're going to get off a medication, you need to be with under a doctor's care and titrate down. This was not on purpose. I just forgot my medication. And seeing as it didn't work as much, I wanted to seek out, especially because I'd had that different experience with my own anxiety and my own back pain. Another example of when I experienced mind-body connection, when I was in college, I was seeing an acupuncturist for my back injury, because if I didn't, sometimes it would spasm. Well, I was under a lot of stress. I was going through finals and I went to see him, and he was working on my back, and I began to cry. And I was ashamed of it. I was like, I don't know why this is happening. And he's like, no, it's okay. It's totally fine. Cry, let it out, let it go. And I was like, why is this happening? He's like, your mind and body are one. Absolutely. And if you don't deal with your emotions, they go into your body. Well, that's what we're releasing here. Never mind just the muscles and the fascia are tightening up, but we also hold stored trauma, and we still hold stored emotion. Absolutely. And this was mind blowing to me. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay. That makes sense because of what I was feeling. Yeah. And so it's not just, this is the mind and this is the body. They are one. And so the fact that the psychiatrist said that, well, like, go move, go sweat, move your body is going to release, happy neurotransmitters, is going to burn up your cortisol. It's going to, bring you, blanking out, serotonin and all the dopamine, and it's going to release that because we're meant to move. So, and I could talk about that forever. It's just so many links. And so, that's one of the things I recommend in my program, Serenity School, is like, you can, especially for anxiety, you can lean into it and go running and burn it up, or you can slow down your body, Tai Chi and yoga, so many things. But it's not just, we're such fascinating beings. It's not just one approach. Yeah. It's a mind, body, spirit approach. I think of any kind of mental health balancing is that you have to take care of your body. You have to make sure you're getting nutrition. You have to make sure you have support. Do your own work and journal. As you said, there's amazing stuff comes out of just writing it down, getting it out of your body. Out of your mind. Get it on the page.
But also out of the body, because the moment you're actually releasing some of those thoughts and you setting them free, suddenly you might feel a tension disappearing that was previously really affecting your body. You might feel certain pain syndromes changing. You might feel autoimmune diseases improving. It's such a beautiful interwoven web where it is so bizarre to imagine that we just in the past thought, here 2 tablets a day and that will sort you out, when you actually see all this linkage and all this beautiful web that you can affect on so many parts, on so many strings on that web. And that is beautiful. And that is where we have got the opportunity to grow. But again, you would have never realized all that had there not been the trauma. So, it takes pressure to create a diamond. We all rough diamonds with the amount of pressure that many of us have experienced. And it is beautiful. It is beautiful that that you now can speak out, because those things that helped you are certainly able to help so many others as well.
As others have helped me. It's when the power of when you realize you are not alone, and there are things you can do, and to step out of your victim mode, and follow other people that have done it or that resonate with you. This is why I love podcasts. Is just enormous. It's, I think we're very cut off, even though we're more connected than ever. Loneliness is epidemic. Feeling like we need to be perfect is epidemic. Feeling like we need to measure up and achieve, and it's too much. We're humans. We're fascinating creatures. We're complicated creatures, but I think we're in this great time. Maybe you would agree with me, Stephan, is that this great time of, because despite all the things going on in the world, is that we're opening up our compassion in our hearts. I see that now, especially after COVID. Life is short, and your story is your own, and good or bad, good and bad. They're always good and bad. There's never just good or bad. It is powerful, and your healing journey is your own.
I think so. I actually agree with you too. And I live my life, I try to live my life by the same rules, i.e. trying to improve. But then when you say that actually we are getting better as humans to do so, if this was really the case, how do we explain the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States, the increasing anti-Semitism, the increasing frictions within certain diaspora of society? When we say we are getting better, and in reality are we not getting worse?
We are getting better and getting worse. It's not a. It's not.
Can you make up your mind?
It's like this, right?
All right.
It's not a 45-degree angle of improvement constantly. I think because of these things that are happening. I think we've gone through as humans decades of acceptance of certain things, and then sort of a mini eruption happens, and it brings out a lot of stored trauma. Black Lives Matter was stored trauma of a population of African Americans for hundreds of years.
Exactly.
It's not okay. So do you know about the healing crisis? The body's good. I'm sure you do. Sometimes
even if I do, but tell the audience.
Okay. So I learned this in the massage school. Healing crisis is, if your body, your immune system is actually working and you're fighting something. Sometimes you feel worse before you feel better. That doesn't mean you're not getting better.
Right.
So, and I've experienced this myself. We do not improve. We do not heal in any capacity, physical or mentally, in a complete, perfect 45-degree angle at all times. That would be really nice, but that's not how it happens.
Touche.
Sometimes it again, back to the pendulum, it swings one way, then it swings the other. But I remember hearing personally that, especially around depression, the capacity that you have to feel sad or heavy is also the capacity that you have to feel love. Just like you were talking about how
nice
diamonds under pressure, like the darker you go, you can actually swing the other way too, but it might take some effort. And I think I think various populations are going through that right now. You're right. I would agree with you. The world is kind of a shit show.
Exactly.
100%.
Yep.
But in my everyday life, I am blessed enough to be safe in my house, in my city. Yeah. I'm in a fairly dangerous city, but I'm safe enough. I notice on a day-to-day of how people I come across, not always, but maybe I'm projecting my own stuff. Maybe that could be, but at least for myself, I have much more. I used to, I think, when I was younger, kind of ignore the news. And now I'm like, my God, there's a lot of craziness going on in the world. Yeah. And I try to show up in my own life and in the people that I love supporting them, bringing compassion, and to myself. Got to put on your own oxygen mask first, and then help others.
But equally, I see it as our moral duty to actually speak out, to be aware of the circumstances, and to live a life where we might be the role models for others, maybe even to have the privilege of being the light and the darkness of others. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing to do, that at least gives you a chance to leave a legacy and gives you a chance to show up with pride. However, whatever the past, whatever cards the gods have given you to play, you still show up, and that is a beautiful thing. And if we just all do that a bit more intentional, that we live with intention and be there for ourselves, I think we can actually build more resilience. And maybe with that resilience and with that strength, we can help others in a far better way than if we just consider ourselves only the victim, powerless, helpless, hopeless, and are content with not trying to do anything and just giving up. I think we have got so many opportunities where you can right now do something about yourself and therefore growing, but also to help others by speaking out, by pointing towards injustice, by role modeling a different way of life. We all can do that. And if we can strengthen ourselves and like creating alliances. Here we are speaking out. We have not previously met, yet there is this linkage there, this kind of beautiful understanding, because we both believe that we can make this world a better place, and we both go out there and we show up. That is beautiful. So there is actually so much positive coming out of trauma, and I'm sometimes just grateful to be able to recognize that. And so you're an amazing woman. Here you are having gone through a lot of challenges, and now you're speaking out, now you're turning up. It's wonderful. I mean,
I really appreciate saying that, because this is actually the first time I'm sharing this story publicly. I was ashamed of it. I was ashamed of what my mother was doing. I was ashamed of my family falling apart. I was taking it on. I was taking on her actions. I remember I was dating someone and they said, well, what are the skeletons in your closet? And I said, well, my mom's an alcoholic. And he said, so what? What are your skeletons? And I was like, I don't think I have any. I think that's the biggest one. And I haven't even given myself the space to have it. And so I appreciate you giving me this platform. And the reason I wanted to share it is because I do think it is so important and pervasive for the family of alcoholics, how much it affects you and can affect you, and the fact that you can find a way through despite the horrible circumstances. You can come out the other side. So thank you for having me.
Oh, please, Suzy, you're an amazing woman. But we both are on this path, and so we are constantly transforming. So I wonder, who is the Suzy in 1 year's time or in 2 years' time? Have you figured out who?
Shall we schedule the podcast and find out?
I like that. Who do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, that's a good question. I've been so many things. We'll see. I don't know. I want to help people heal. Yeah. I did it for many years physically. I learned a lot by being a massage therapist and an energy worker. I did polarity and craniosacral. Yeah. And now I want to be a support for people with anxiety and stress, because it's everywhere.
Well, yes.
And I teach the program that I developed, or the tools that I found over decades, different tools and techniques to help me feel better and get through my day and strive to succeed and achieve. And that's what I'm focusing on now.
Beautiful.
And I also love to write. So I've begun writing again. I've written some plays and some scripts and things like that, but I'm also writing just for fun and for me, and I'm blogging on my website. And
oh, beautiful. Oh, amazing. If people gel with you and they want to know more about you and learn more about you and maybe get in touch with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on my website, suzyhardy.com, spelled SUZYHARDY.com. If they sign up for my newsletter, they'll get instant access to my #1 stress slaying and anxiety relieving tool. It's a video tutorial that I teach you. I did not invent this, but I love it. It's a fantastic tool that's immediate, really effective, and really easy. And
Cool.
they can find me there. And I'm starting some videos on YouTube at Suzy Hardy Coach.
Brilliant. Guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast, because all of Suzy's links are down there. And what have you got to lose? Get in touch with her, check her out. Exactly. Exactly. Because these are all opportunities for you guys out there to grow, for you guys to deal with some of the trauma, maybe to reframe some of the situations that you have experienced in your life, maybe to work on some core beliefs that are holding you back. And there is so much work that can be done. Trauma occurs in layers, so does healing. And you might have done some work. Educated guess is if you were to expose yourself again to more work, to more positive experiences, you will grow, you will change, you become a better human being. That's my experience. And therefore, I will not stop anytime soon doing this show, because I get exposure to such wonderful people like Suzy. And, it is just, you made me rethink already some bits in my past, and appreciate the privilege I've got today to work on some of the shit that is happening right now. So bottom line is, Suzy, you're an amazing woman, and I'm absolutely grateful that you have been a guest on my show.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure.
Cool. And you guys out there, look after yourself and try to live with passion. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.